Hi, welcome back to FutureFast, and we have Anup once again with us. And today we're going to talk about what's he busy with right now. You probably heard last time we talked about eSamudaay a few times, and many of you already know because eSamudaay is in on news across India. And so before that, once again, FutureFast is a platform to bring people who are working towards uh, riding the wave as the future changes fast. And this small effort is to understand how we can perhaps take some cues and also work towards ourselves, get control of our own situation. So, hope you will enjoy the ride. And Anup, welcome back.
Thank you, Ranju. I'd love
So,
to talk about eSamudaay. These
yeah,
days people have to just prod me, and I'm like all eSamudaay. Yeah.
right. So, yes, it's done. So, go ahead. In some of the
So this thing, eSamudaay started during the first lockdown, and if you remember the days that led to the lockdown, we had the whole Iran, the threat of a third world war that was happening, and then the Chinese New Year. Nancy Pelosi went to Taiwan or did that whole China thing. Then in Italy, there were like people who were dying because of the Chinese, travelers that had gone to Italy, and then we had Italian tourists in India that were missing and all of that. This was all happening in March, right? And then suddenly, out of the blue, we were all at home, right? So the whole country, the whole world, in fact, right? And at that time, we had this system that and a team that we had put together. Ravi Haldipur, Ravinder Mahori, Daivik, Jeevan, Sanchit, a number of people who had built a system to create a commerce platform for every closed community, especially campuses. We had implemented it in campuses. You're on mute.
sorry, those were few of your investments.
Yeah.
You put them together, and Samudai was
So this had already happened in December 2019, and we were working together as one team, and we were working on what was known as community commerce, right? So community commerce is where the community implements a platform and then operates commerce within that platform, and the buyers, sellers, same e-commerce kind of a thing, right? And then lockdown happened, and we had the system. It was ready. It was built. It was. We realized when we were scaling it, we needed to rewrite it. But we then implemented in Nanjunda, Thalok. We implemented it for a couple of gated communities in Marathalli where Daivik and Jeevan and Chetan were stuck. A couple of where the housing society could order schedule orders from the nearby supermarket. Remember the time when we were so nice that we used to wait in line for our orders to get delivered and so on. We did that in a small village in near Tumkur. We delivered orders to old people and all of that, right? And then Atmanirbhar Bharat and Vocal for Local were announced in May. So we decided at that point that there was merit in us building a community commerce platform owned by the community, operated by the community, rather than a third party company building the tech and then controlling your operations, right? Here is a decentralized circular system where you own that infra and you manage the transactions, and we only provide you the infra and the technology to be able to run it, right? It's theirs, it's yours, right? So that model is what we called, and so in the search for a name,
this
Samuday
is
came up.
right, but this is just for the benefit of the listeners, right? So did Google from an Android point of view, but only difference here being that the data continues to reside with the operators.
Absolutely, data ownership. So the
Yeah,
fundamental shift here is the digital platforms of today inherently, intrinsically own any data that passes through their pipes. Whether they're, and it's almost like assumed that as if I process it, I own it. Whereas, because I come from the banking kind of a world, that's inherently not something that we would understand, right? We would say there needs to be a data governance mechanism built in. The data owners are something else. I could be a steward for you, right? I could be a data steward for you, taking and helping you, generate value out of the data that you have. But I can't shift legally the ownership to me. So we therefore said, any Samudaay community that is using eSamudaay technology, right? You own your data. You then retain me as a data steward to help you create value out of the data, because data in isolation is valueless. It only creates value when it is shared, right? How do you then now create sharing of data within the ecosystem so that the value can increase for both, for the person that is receiving
So
versus
the
delivering?
choice is not necessarily share the whole data, but only the relevant intelligence so that it
Absolutely,
protects the user's identity and all the information.
absolutely.
And you, as a data steward, will enable the intelligence to move so that other networks can operate better.
Exactly. Exactly. So we are a responsible data steward and a technology provider to these e-samudais. So we are not e-samudai is not a singular thing. It's actually a network of e-samudais. So every e-samudai can exist in complete isolation as well as interconnect with other e-samudais as well, based on their choice, right? The infra and the ability, what they do, how all of that is governed by the rules of the land that they operate in, right? So,
So pretty much a DAO of sorts. It's their decision if they so choose to connect with others or
yeah,
want to operate in isolation.
correct. Yeah. So, we did, kind of do the parallel between the Web3 world and what we were trying to do. So, in terms of the terms and so on, this is basically a legal entity that everybody that is participating here figures out how they want to participate. It can be a cooperative. In India, it can be a proprietorship run by the guy who's running it, right? It can be a partnership, private limited company, vagera, vagera, vagera. It can be a cooperative, right? Actual cooperative, right? And they
Yeah,
can operate
more
it,
of a
right?
society of
Yeah.
sorts with memberships. And
And anybody that has got a legal entity indicator, anybody that has got a GST number, for example, can operate an e-Samudaay, right? Technically, right? So that we built this. When we first put this design out, nobody really. Luckily for me, I had the gravitas to get my team to do something without asking me. कौन use करेगा इसको? It's like we built it, and then we created this model of an entrepreneur called a circle promoter, right? Who then puts this circle together. It doesn't exist till it exists on the ground, right? Where people are using it. So the circle promoter becomes somebody that draws the boundary of the circle, creates the rules, and then brings people together and creates transactions within the circle. All
so
of that.
where all is eSamudaay today across India? Which are locations?
So very interesting locations. So we started in Udupi. Udupi is what we call our experiment node. So this is like it's articulated to be a data. It's a network of data republics, right? Digital republics, and every district of India we want to create the infrastructure and the participation to create a digital republic in every district of India. Let's call it district digital economy, right?
So, and in true sense, it is like starting from home for you, right?
Yeah, it is. Actually, not just home. The first shop to go online on eSamudaay was a shop that, as a little kid, I was, packing tur dal for customers, right? So and yeah, so and counting money at the end of the evening, right? So my uncle's shop, right? KV Pai and Sons. So and the whole temple square of Udupi, where as a early teen, we spent so much time around there, right? It's the whole the Ashtamata, eight mutts area. So from there, it's expanded. The next place to go live was Shillong. because Meda,
Another end.
other end. So Meda, who quit Fintellix and joined eSamudaay in November, she moved to Shillong, and she created a team in Shillong and started there. And then we had Sudarshan, who helped set up Udupi, went to Tanjavur and started in Tanjavur. And then now we've got different people. I mean, Surat is on, Bhopal is on, Meerut is on, Bhimavaram is on, Mysore is on. Where else? Yeah, I mean, a few other places where people are starting to come on. Jaipur, Udaipur, things are moving. Yeah,
It's literally like playing a dart game on the Indian map, is it?
uh,
Just throw random. Okay, there it is. One more.
there is some strategy. I mean, which we will
Okay.
which we will come to. There is a concerted strategy for the North India. I mean, the Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, that area. Given the bulk of the Indian population is around there. And then the other cities where there are significant populations which can support an hyper-local digital commerce local platform. And within all of this, this is all. So ONDC is the lingua franca of all of these, different, entities within as well as between each other, right?
So I
So
think coming of ONDC kind of gave a huge push as well to eSamudaay.
absolutely. So we were building these islands, right? Every district was an island, and in our software architecture, we had these interconnect, dots, right? So we had like this in our architecture. We said Udupi connecting with Mandya, because we had already done some trades of in our early pilots. We had created jaggery in Chamrajnagar, and we wanted to sell it in Udupi, right, through the shop in the Krishna Mata, because there's a lot of jaggery consumption in Udupi, as you know. Right? The temple itself is a big consumer of jaggery. So we
Right.
had done it without digital back then, and we actually brought the jaggery and then put it on the system here. So we had like a need for a interconnect protocol, right? A way for Mandya, Chamrajnagar to publish jaggery and for Udupi to buy it, right? Somebody in Udupi to buy it, right? We had just left it saying, करेंगे बाद में करेंगे, right? अब पहले इसको बनाते हैं, right? So then when ONDC was first announced, look, I mean, I'm a government skeptic, you know. I mean, I usually think, not without party affiliations, right? I mean, governments are meant to be slow and ineffective, right? In general, right? I mean, that's not just India. Everywhere in the world, governments are slow and ineffective, right? They're meant to be like that, right? They're not meant to be like startups, right? So I was like, हाँ, government है, करेगा, देखेंगे. And then when they put Koshi and the team together in a NPCI kind of a company, that is when that this is around December 2020, no, December 2021, December 2021, sorry, which is when I said, okay, this sounds like a great thing. I mean, it's giving us what we want, a protocol, right? Second, the chances of success are high. I mean, government has put its name behind it, right? It's part of India stack, and we've got a stellar team like Koshi that is leading it, right? So that is when eSamudaay, we kind of bet the house on ONDC. We integrated ONDC protocol, which is we were watching Beacon. I mean, ONDC is on the Beacon protocol anyway. Ravinder had gone and met a few times. I had met, so we knew what was going on with Beacon. And if ONDC had not come, we would have adopted Beacon in its native form, I guess. But when this whole thing happened, we kind of bet the future of eSamudaay. So we made ONDC as the lingua franca within our application. So our application layer today is ONDC native. Every other software company that has joined ONDC is a platform implementation. They are a platform implementation connected to ONDC. We are a true network implementation within ONDC, which is ONDC native. And yeah, I mean, and then we've also, like incorrectly mentioned in the previous episode, that I am the spokesperson of ONDC. I'm no, no, you're on mute again.
And not spokesperson, pretty much the face of it. You've been most visible on the ONDC conversation everywhere in
No,
that
look.
sense.
So I mean,
Maybe
from
not
an
an official spokesperson, but the face. I was referring to it more as a face because
no, no,
you've
I know.
been in
So
the.
and that is only me who's the sales guy. I'm a salesperson, right? I sell. And right now, the future of eSamudaay is equal to the future of ONDC, right? So I'm, it's almost like I have to make it work, right? I mean, and you know how persistent I can get, how irritating I can get when I need to make something work.
So then, what could fail the adoption of ONDC?
So as of now, we need builders and we need investors to. I mean, we don't need a full rush of them. We need people who believe that this can be the future, can be right the future. I mean, obviously, we are not saying it's a certainty. I mean, no future is a certainty. So, if people believe that this can be the future and this can really bring about grassroots change in India, and because fundamentally what is happening today is the top of the pyramid is pushing wealth down, and wealth is not getting really created at the bottom of the pyramid like Prahlad and other thinkers talked about and thought about, right? But with this kind of a network, you can actually create wealth at the bottom of the pyramid, not linked to linearly
Top
to the
down
top
only.
down. Yeah. So because trade is going to happen, and trade is what creates wealth. I mean, when people exchange value within themselves, is when wealth gets created. And with ONDC kind of networks, you can really create wealth at the bottom of the pyramid, and that wealth, can grow fast, right? Because trade is going to happen, right?
Huh. So essentially, ONDC is not a network; it's a protocol connecting network. It facilitates the creation of network.
Open network for digital commerce is a protocol. First and foremost, it's a protocol, and then it's an infrastructure, right? First, the protocol, which is agreement on the language, which and the governance of that protocol.
That is what best facilitates two networks to connect with to
Yeah,
sell something like jaggery from
yeah,
Chamarajanagar to
yeah.
Udupi and
So that's the protocol. Then there's infrastructure. Infrastructure, there is two layers. There's the gateway layer and the application layer, right? The gateway layer today is also run by ONDC Corporation, right? Which is the NPCI. Just like NPCI runs their own servers, even though Google Pay, Phone Pay, and the banks run their own servers, NPCI also runs their servers, right?
hmm.
Similarly, ONDC runs some servers, which is the gateway servers, which means that all transactions at some point in time will have a footprint in the gateway, right? It's where the discovery happens, right? And then there is application layer, which is where we have a bunch of network participants, right? So network participants are those that have made their systems talk the ONDC language, right?
eSamudaay. Oh,
eSamudaay is one of them. There are many. There are 70
yeah.
network participants at this point. But the only difference is all of the other network participants, other than eSamudaay, are platform implementations of software, which means
Right.
that they centralize information. So if a seller is using an app from any of the other network participants, their data, the seller's data is
They are like another Amazon
yeah,
or
it's a
Flipkart or
centralized
any
version.
such.
It's a platform version, right? eSamudaay is the only one that has got data sovereignty, built baked into this network, and it's a network of network implementation, right? You can create your own networks. Networks can coexist. They can grow. They can shrink. They can talk to each other. They can buy each other out and whatever, right? So all of that are the implementations that we have done in eSamudaay, and eSamudaay is multiple companies. So there is an eSamudaay in every district to begin with. There is an eSamudaay entity in every district. There is an eSamudaay. There could be an eSamudaay. There could be an eSamudaay entity that says that I will specialize in apples, right? Apple eSamudaay, right? I mean, which kind of maps the apple flow, right? I mean, from the growing to the consumption in various forms, right? Including vinegar and all of that, right? So eSamudaay is the only one that has done this, and that is what we're
So,
rolling out now.
but what is the fear there? If what could fail it? Is it you are talking about that more people have to come and build?
Yeah,
So true for eSamudaay as well, true for ONDC as well.
yeah.
So, so, uh, so, how are you trying to address that in terms of getting more people to come and build on
I
top of
think
it?
I think people will come and build if there is transactions that are happening, so that they see that, oh, I mean, they can now participate, or if they see money, right?
True.
So on the transaction side, what we are saying is we have certain use cases now fully streamlined, and across all the country, we are now rolling out these hyperlocal commerce platforms that are engineered for optimizing for hyperlocal throughput, transaction throughput. And then we are showing that information to educated investors. We don't want those investors who will come and ask us, how will you control the whole world and all of that. So, I mean, people who don't understand the network model, we try our best to educate them, but if they don't want to be educated, we don't try, right? So that's the other side, right? I mean, people who will come and early money that will come and invest for early return, right? So for greater return. So those are two things that we spend time on. Yeah, I mean, and eSamudaay itself has created some significant value. For example, we are in the business of now spinning off a few companies out of eSamudaay into one selling eSamudaay software, maybe a different brand selling it to the enterprises. Enterprises also want to connect to ONDC, but they can't buy another platform. I mean, so they can buy a platform and connect, but then they're not taking advantage of the network, right? Fully, right? How can you connect to the network while retaining your data sovereignty, taking advantage of the network the way it exists? How do you? Yeah, so those are things that we're doing, and different companies are coming out. We've got one company that is aggregating artisanal produce from villages and selling it in the cities rather than having a middleman. Now the village producer is directly connected to the city consumer with a tech platform integrated with the logistics platform, where the logistics is also built in. It's not, and we take the job of creating the trust, creating the ecosystem in there. So that's a separate company that's coming out. So yeah,
So, how long do you see it would take for eSamudaray to have 700 odd districts, right? 760 districts. So 760 eSamudays and then head out, or parallelly you want to look at start going outside of India? Because this, uh, apart from that, Samuday is a very native Indian term. The concept is same, logic is same. It works everywhere.
that's correct. So so time is not something I'm going to be optimizing for, because I mean, you think very high, you should think very highly of yourself if you put some time frames on when the future should arrive, right? The future will arrive when it is going to arrive, and because it's a function of the
Your plans from that aspect,
I
from
don't
that
have a
point.
plan, right? So my job is to put it out there, right? And then natural network and the people and so on. One thing that we are committing is, if we raise X amount of money, if we get X amount of money, we'll commit 200 districts by the end of the year, right? But without money, it cannot be done, right? I mean, that I think is it's something that I would be honest to say, right? I mean, you can only sing and dance so much. You need to pay people also, right? So, that's something that we have said. In the absence of us raising the money, this is going to happen before 2025. I think the network economy will be a reality in India for sure, right? Because India, I mean, when I talk to people,
How does that stack with a Flipkart or a Paytm or Geo?
I don't
So
care
how
for
do
them.
you no? How do you see this in the same playground? How do you see these players seeing
So,
each other? See, this is not something that they could buy out, right? So how do you see that happening?
so I have to. So we have to believe that the platforms provide value in terms of the most efficient, cost-effective way of getting mass-produced goods to the market, right? I mean, mass
See,
production.
but at the same time, a good percentage of Amazon sold products are Amazon branded,
I know, so
right? Much
mass-produced.
of white goods and all that. So even the
Mass-produced,
brand is getting.
yeah. So it's a mass production. Wherever there's mass production, mass distribution, the platforms will always rule, right? Wherever there is, distributed, production and distributed, consumption, and it's locally organized, this network economy will work. So what I see is wherever anybody, a consumer, wants certainty, right, wants X price, and it is, I mean, मेरे को sugar चाहिए, right, and I want the best sugar at the cheapest price, right. I mean, the network economy is not going to be able to get you the get you the sugar, right, because we can't. Network economy is not going to put up sugar factories, right. But if you want the best honey, right, and you're willing to pay the price for it, right, network economy is going to get you the best honey, and you will be able to participate in the sourcing of that honey as well. And yeah.
So you will see the cost competitiveness will keep the platform thriving, while a small percentage of conscious customer or consumer will sustain the network.
And we'll see how that
That's
percentage goes, because many products today, I mean, so if you're looking at the pyramid, I mean, the overall spending pyramid itself, let's so the rich people definitely will at some point in time become fully network. They're already network economy, right. They have their own yachts and their own factories and whatever, right. Their own cooks and own restaurants and all that, right? So the middle, the next part, which is the not so rich but rich enough kind of people, will move to network economy en masse, right? Because already they don't want to buy sugar, they don't want to buy mass produced goods, they want to be able to get customized products, right? Organic and all of that, right? So, I mean, when you get to that organic or that direct from earth, right? I mean, good for you, no corporate will be able to guarantee that, right? Because there's enough hands that touch this, and they're engineered for profit, and profit can only come through standardization. If you standardize a process at some point in time, I mean, imagine a corporate saying, "I'll guarantee this honey," right? I mean,
you.
these,
You don't see these two getting somewhere coming together.
no, they come together in our homes, no. I mean, it's a
But no,
so
in the business,
as a business,
in the market.
in the market, there will be a time period when these two will be like chalk and cheese, oil and water, kind of a thing, right? Because it's all about mind frames, right? I mean, because enough people in the corporates are going to be consumers here at some point, right? I mean, in their homes, they'll want products that are better for the planet, better for whatever, right?
But things do change, right? It was
I
Republicans who
know.
were fighting for abortion. Today, it's the other way. So
I
people change
totally,
roles.
totally agree. So, which is where I'm saying the mental model that I use is a yin yang symbol, right? So, and so sometimes this is higher, that is higher, but there, and within that there is a, within the black there is a white circle, within the white there is a black circle, and things change. I mean, as the thing shifts, we we will exist, right? There will be coexisting. One will be bigger than the other. Today, centralization is havi hai dunya pe, and things are shifting. This is the tipping point where decentralization or localization and local supply chains, better for planet, better connected to earth. Those are the narratives that are flying, and and this is, I mean, this is fundamentally, I mean, centralization, decentralization are two sides of the same coin. I mean, they're part of the same ecosystem. I mean, you need certain amount of centralization. You can't have सब लोग अपना अपना करेंगे. You need to learn from. I mean, finally, we are all connected to the same, cosmic dust. No, I mean, whether you are in a corporate or whatever. So,
Wonderful. So, do you want to talk about what should entrepreneurs look at doing in this changing ecosystem, right? From how ONDC is building this infrastructure to the protocol to uh, even facilitate the whole transaction. So, you want to give one shout out to the entrepreneurs that what they can do about it for the future
I
and
think,
for their own
yeah,
benefit as well.
totally. I mean, I think first and foremost, um, drop. I mean, so the first thing we think about when we think about startup and entrepreneurship in India, I mean, given that they are now interchangeably used, those terms, we build a deck for investors, right? We optimize our entire time and our mind frame to think about these external people that will give us money to begin with, right? Stop that, right? I mean, first and foremost, stop that, right? Because you can build if you are a builder, right? If you're a builder creator, you don't need much money in the network economy, right? You don't need to raise $1 million before you start moving your little finger, right? You just need to be able to buy enough food for yourself and your family and whatever, keep that going, right? So overall, in the network economy, if you're a builder, if you're a creator, if you're an entrepreneur, you can get started by filling in gaps where they exist, right? And if you solve that problem well enough, and if you are of a collaborating nature, which is what you need to be in the network economy, other people will come to you, and you will be able to grow your influence, and through that your value as well, right? Because if, I mean, you give to get, right? You give the value, will get value, right? So stop thinking about startups and companies in the form of raising money as the first step. Start thinking about what vacuum can you fill, right? There is vacuum right now in the ONDC. I mean, there's like so many things that can be done. I mean, including speeding up transactions, increasing transactions, connecting dhania, pudina, palak from the nearby farms in Bangalore to the tables in Bangalore, right? Each one is a problem that's worth solving, right? In a network ONDC kind of a way. Yeah, I mean, I think that's my main thing. I mean, actually, that's my almost a request to entrepreneurs. Boss, I'm sick and tired of people saying, "ये मेरा plan है, मेरे को $1 million चाहिए." I'm nice. I'm a nice guy usually, but now I'm like, okay, नहीं चाहिए.
Great. Thank you so much, Anup. And we'll also share some other links on ONDC and eSamudaay for everybody to look up so that, start acting, start working towards that, and start building and define your own ride. So, once again, thank you and hope you enjoyed this conversation. And we'll chase Anup to come back to talk about the future. Uh, and until then, have a good time. Take care. Thanks, Anup, once again.
Thank you, Nanju.